This episode of Epicenter is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Do you have an idea for a blockchain app but are worried about the time and cost it will take to develop? The new Azure Blockchain Dev Kit is a free download that brings together the tools you need to get your first app running in less than 30 minutes. Learn more at aka.ms/epicenter.
Hi, my name is Brian Fabian Crane.
And my name is Friederike Ernst.
So before we start with the interview, you guys did a wonderful conference last year called DAppCon, and another one is coming up again this year. Tell us a little bit about the DAppCon conference.
Yeah, so it's we had one last year. It was Gnosis's first conference. We're organizing another one this year by popular demand. It'll be August 21 to 23rd. It'll concentrate on dApps that are usable on Ethereum, and tickets are pretty affordable. So full price tickets is 150 euros, and there are hacker tickets and student tickets. And we're looking forward to having many hundred people there. If you want to check it out, it's at dappcon.io.
Perfect. And of course, we can put a link to that in the episode notes too.
One thing that we should also say is that a couple of the Epicenter hosts are going to moderate panels as well.
Okay, that makes the conference all that much better. So today we spoke with Aya MIYAGUCHI. She's the executive director of the Ethereum Foundation, and of course, Ethereum Foundation being one of the largest, kind of this original Swiss crypto foundation. And having had a tremendous impact on the space through their funding of Ethereum and developing of Ethereum and kind of steering Ethereum through all its history. Yeah, what did you think of the interview, Friederike?
I heard many positive things. So I like that the Ethereum Foundation is moving into a direction of transparency, which so far has often been somewhat lacking. I remain curious to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit. It was not so easy to get answers, I think, for a lot of questions. But I think they're making an attempt, and that's should be honored and appreciated. So let's go to the interview with Aya. Hi and welcome. So we're here today with Aya MIYAGUCHI. She's the executive director of the Ethereum Foundation. Of course, the Ethereum Foundation having had an enormous impact on the blockchain space since the beginning, when it conducted kind of one of the first token sales or of public fundraisers for a crypto project, and then has done a tremendous amount in terms of building the Ethereum ecosystem. So we're really excited to have Aya on today to speak a little bit about the role of the foundation and how that has changed and evolved over time. So thanks so much for joining us, Aya.
Excited to be here.
So I'm curious to get started. How did you originally become involved in the crypto space? You were a high school teacher for 10 years. That seems quite a change and transition.
Yes. So I am originally from Japan. I was born and grew up there. And like you said, my first professional career, was a high school teacher. And I was teaching English to high school students there for a long time, actually, for over 10 years. And then as a teacher, I had some experience studying abroad. And then Japan is a big economy, but at the same time, it's pretty isolated. It's surrounded by the ocean, and then the culture is not that diverse. So my mission was to tell my students, to at least go out there and then see the world and then, feel the diversity. So I was telling him, I was inspiring students to do that, and my students started to go abroad, and in the meantime, I also had this question about how teachers didn't really try to go outside themselves, and then I thought it was important for education for the teachers to also have more diverse experience. And I also got jealous of my students who were going out there, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity for teachers to kind of take a leave or paid leave to go outside and learn. So I just decided to quit. I'm still passionate about education. So I thought if I want to go back, I can just always come back. So I left the country and then moved to the US. And originally, I wanted to, well, in order for me to get a job, in order for me to get a job, I needed a visa. And in order for me to get a visa, a working visa, it was better for me to get some like master's degree. And since I thought I learned enough about education being a teacher, I decided to get a business degree. And then, so when I was working on my MBA, my focus was sustainable business, which, like you kind of have to think about economic, environmental, social sustainabilities for business to even make profit. And I thought that was interesting, and also had some experience working for a nonprofit when I was working on MBA. And also specifically, I was focused on microfinance, financial inclusion for that sustainable business study. And that's when I heard about Bitcoin.
When was this, Aya? Which year?
So this was in 2011. And that was the time that I heard about Bitcoin. And then originally, there was no materials to learn. So now, Bitcoin seems very simple now for us, but since there was no information education, it took me a while to understand what it was. But then when I learned what it was, and I thought, oh, this is really would be perfect opportunity or combination with things like microfinance, and it was just thinking about the efficiency that can create. But then now, of course, with Ethereum, you can do a lot more. But back then, I thought that was my interest, and then this is going to create a lot of impact in financial inclusions. And then I just had a chance to, since I was in San Francisco, the company who started Kraken. Well, I joined Kraken when the team was getting non-dev people. So I was original, a few founding members, one of a few founding members. And I had an opportunity to join Kraken before its launch. And that was early 2013. It was around the time that all other crypto efforts or startups started. Other groups like Coinbase or all started to happen, and then San Francisco was kind of center of those companies. And then a Ripple was there, and I still remember my first blockchain event was Bitcoin event in San Jose 2013 in April. It felt big, that the event seemed big back then, but now looking back, it was very small. We had everyone who are now the leaders of this industry, but it was very, very still very geeky, nerdy group. Yeah, it's funny. I thought, wow, this is almost too geeky for me. I came to the wrong place, but
cool. And so you worked at Kraken for a few years. Then how did you end up at the Ethereum Foundation?
So I worked at Kraken a few years. My job involved a lot of different things, including basically I was heavily involved in starting up the ecosystem in Japan, the crypto. There was no crypto industry there when I joined. But because of what happened to Mt. Gox, which was a big thing, the Mt. Gox hacked also how they collapsed. I was heavily involved in the regulatory situations in Japan too. And I was always having conversation with the government and the bankruptcy case, and also starting off the industry association there. And I was doing all that, so Kraken work was really still during the early stage of crypto industry. My passion, again, my passion was into this impact side of blockchain. So I decided to leave and focused on more on this social impact side of blockchain. And then when I actually was kind of working on different things and personally advising different applications. And around that time, I was asked to have interviews with the Ethereum Foundation people when they were looking for help for the Ethereum Foundation. And I spoke with them, and I joined the foundation. That was early last year.
So there's some sort of so the foundation is a fairly centralized organ that governs or that kind of steers a space that is very decentralized. So how would you describe the role of the Ethereum Foundation in Ethereum today?
Yeah, I wouldn't describe this organization as centralized at all. I guess at all, because when I joined, it was since I think I flew to Berlin to meet some developers there, and I also there are a bunch of other people who are all spread out to the different places in the world. But it is still, compared to even flat startup, this is very decentralized, because not almost all projects in Ethereum, including the stuff that the members of Ethereum foundations are involved in, are not only by the foundation's members, they're collaborations with other community members. So it is really hard to draw the line who is working on one project. So I couldn't tell who are the members of one project. And that alone shows how decentralized the whole thing is. So it's really hard it's more like the coordination is very important, and the foundation's role is to coordinate everything in the ecosystem. And so that the goal is to really support Ethereum, and that's it. And meaning it can be about education, it can be about development, research, but how it works is not not the Ethereum Foundation to do education. We can support that effort, but fundamentally we are the coordinators. We're our peoples are coordinating, especially our operations team is coordinating. So the foundation's role is to support everything in Ethereum. So we have operations team, we have grant program team, and then we do have some developers and researchers who work on projects, but their projects also are not centralized by the Ethereum Foundation's member. They work with people in the ecosystem to actually work on the project. So it's really hard to say who is working on one project because of that structure.
That sounds very difficult in terms of governance. Can you talk a little bit about the governance structure of the foundation? So how does the Ethereum Foundation actually take decisions, and who has what role in that?
Yeah, so the governance is definitely difficult. Now, people want to, somehow the governance has become a super hot topic, but it is, governance exists in any organization, any structure. But again, I'm the coordinator of coordinators, meaning we try to let each team or each members to make their own decisions, and our job is to support their decision and coordinate their decision with other decisions. So that's why I see my job as the coordinator of coordinators, but I can't really coordinate everything by myself. So I have other people to coordinate together. And it's more like I oversee all these coordination works. So decision making is never top down. We don't really, I don't know if you know, like a lot of people, I have this title, but this title doesn't really explain my work, because this is something that doesn't really exist in other organizations.
But so just to get like a little bit more specific, so you mentioned kind of coordinating in different parts, but like, are there some kind of, principles or like core processes that you use to say like, okay, this is the way the Ethereum Foundation goes about it, so that we get good outcomes and maybe the different interests are protected? Like, what
Yeah,
does
so again, there is like a team guest, and then we let them make decisions over their roadmap, and then they suggest budget. This is a plan that we want to. This is a roadmap we want to execute this year, and this is how much we would need. And then, since that's one project we need to support, and we have to think about the total budget. So that's why the coordination happens there. They can make their own decision for their own team, but like they can't really decide on other projects. So we coordinate that effort. So that's why when I use that term coordination, yes, we have to have some structure for this coordination to work. And the structure meaning like they suggest, and it's that. So it's not in the normal company, the management decide on everything. Here's a plan, like you guys have to work on this way, but it's not that way. Like they suggest their ideas, and then we coordinate their decisions.
But given that there's probably not unlimited funding overall, this means that someone actually has to restrict teams and say, this is too much, you can't have that much, and decide on the general direction that the foundation is going to go in. Is that you, or who is that?
We have like our other operations team that's basically listen to, like, together with me, listen to their requests, and then, but again, so I don't want to get too deep into like internal teams, or so that the plan that we are about to make it more, like, make it clear is that this concept of external teams that we're funding with grant, and then internal teams, that we want to eliminate this distinction between internal or external. At the end of the day, the foundation's goal is to support important project in the ecosystem. Well, I mean, important meaning like our focus would be, like you said, when we have limited budget, how we make decisions is really like what are most important in the ecosystem now. So it shouldn't be about internal or external. And so we are looking at the number that I just mentioned at Ethereum. We're going to spend about 30 million to support Ethereum this year. Is that rough decision is decided by a few, like our operations team, including myself, but then how we spend those monies, or depending on the types of decisions, we have multiple people to make the decisions. Again, like I need other people. That's not really only unique about our organization. Like maybe there are small companies who like only CEO make decisions, but that we have experts in finance and legal, and like we have to discuss different things. I think that's normal for an organization.
This episode of Epicenter is brought to you by Microsoft and the Azure Blockchain Workbench. Getting your blockchain from the whiteboard to production can be a big undertaking. And something as simple as connecting your blockchain to IoT devices or existing ERP systems is a project in itself. Well, the folks at Microsoft have you covered. You already know about the Azure Blockchain Workbench and how easy it makes bootstrapping your blockchain network pre-configured with all the cloud services you need for your enterprise app. Their new development kit is the IFTTT for blockchains. Suppose you want to collect data from someone in a remote location via SMS and have that data packaged in a transaction for your Hyperledger Fabric blockchain. The development kit allows you to build this integration in just a few steps in a simple drag and drop interface. Here's another great example. Perhaps you're an institution working with Ethereum and rely on CSV files sent by email. One click in the dev kit and you can parse these files and have the data embedded in transactions. Whatever you're working with, the dev kit can read, transform, and act on the data. To learn more and to build your first application in less than 30 minutes, visit aka.ms/epicenter. And be sure to follow them on Twitter at MSFT Blockchain. We'd like to thank Microsoft and Azure for their support of Epicenter.
So of course, there Ethereum has, sort of its founder Vitalik Buterin, who has a very, very high profile and kind of, of course, extremely well known in the Ethereum community. So what's Vitalik's role in the foundation, and what's his role, his responsibilities, and like how much power does he have?
How much power? So his role is to what is it? So I think he claims himself a chief science officer, and he's a researcher, and of course he's involved in like important research teams decisions, but and then he is involved in some. Like I'm in charge of like the foundation's operations, meaning like things like budget, and he's aware of like how we, decide on things, and then also including budget. And then like at the community, like whoever wants to listen to him, they will listen to him, but he doesn't really control any decision making.
In effect, someone actually has not only to control the budget, but also the strategic direction of the foundation, right? So you said that you have experts that you listen to, but it sounded like the team that finally calls the shots is the operation team. So is that correct? And if so, what kind of experts do you consult, and are these known figures? So basically, are these known within the ecosystem as advisors to the foundation? So what's the process, just for us to understand?
Yeah, so we tried to actually, when I joined that operation, there was there was very, very like the operation team wasn't big, and then also the foundation wasn't really giving out grants, as you know, and then when we started giving out a lot of grants starting last year, we built this team or grant program team, and since this is still new, like the team was still like originally it was small, but now we have more people, including community members. Someone like Evan Banes is also providing information, like what he thinks are most important, because as you know, like he knows, he's watching, he has to write week in Ethereum, so he is watching everything in the ecosystem. So we have those people who actually join the screening process of grant program, and I also talked about this at the Ethereum, the whole grant process from the screening and doing interview and making the final decisions. That this involves all those other people, and then some, depending on the topic we go to, like when it involves security discussion, the grant team talks to our security team, but also sometimes like security teams outside, they have to reach different groups depending on the topic or depending on the project that they are considering. So we see the entire ecosystem as basically we can reach anyone. Like if we want to, take a look at prediction market discussion, and then we go to we go to Gnosis team, and then maybe ask their feedback, or that's like that's totally possible unless you don't want to give any feedback, right?
Okay.
So that's how.
So you mentioned that the Ethereum Foundation is going to give out $30 million in grants. What are the what are the priorities, the funding priorities? Like, how much are you planning? Like, are you dividing it into different categories and allocating some amount to different categories, or how are you going to go about deploying that money?
Yeah, so again, this is going to be a detail is going to be provided very soon. But there are different ways to categorize this. One is, like I think that the fundamental criteria that we use, the grant program use is that like how. So when you take a look at one project and the solution it is providing, how critical, of course, how important is the solution is, and how urgent that solution needs to happen, how unique the solution is compared to other ways of solving the problem. So that kind of key criteria we do have when the grant program screen projects, but also and then there were topics that we originally kind of, like asked, meaning the wish list, like a security, scaling, UX, and all that. But now the big categories that we have regarding the support from the Ethereum Foundation is one for like what's happening on the Ethereum now, and also the future of Ethereum, and then it was something like bringing more developers to Ethereum, or like the different types of thing that we like the ecosystem to have more. And then the mostly when we make decisions, we try to focus on the things on that if we don't give support, no one else would give support. But this is very important. So sometimes there are things that only the Ethereum Foundation can do because of our unique position with the history.
Can you give an example for that, Aya?
Yeah, like something like a research projects that like do like a lot of project we support are a research project, right? And then most of them don't have business model, meaning the investors wouldn't be interested in supporting them unless investors could be interested in supporting them if they can see like long-term effect, including the price of it. But normally it's hard for them to receive support because they don't have business model.
Okay, that makes sense. So you just said that you're going to give out 30 million in grants for this year. As far as I know, the foundation doesn't release financial statements. So can you give us a sense of what percentage? So how much money does the foundation have? So basically, if you continue giving out grants for 30 million a year, how long will it last you? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, that depends on, of course, price of ETH, right? And then how much Ether we have is sort of public information, because you can just go get the information online. So it's already out there. They like information about 650K Ether that EF has, and also we do have some fiat amount, and then combining that, it's like how long this lasts is like it depends on the price of ETH, and it changes every day.
So why doesn't the Ethereum Foundation like publish, I don't know, like every quarter is like, okay, these are the assets we have, here's how we spent the money, these are like there's feels like there's a lack of communication and transparency in the foundation. Do you see that the same way, or?
So just objectively, like when also like Ethereum is, as you know, like a Swiss foundation, and the EF has to do everything that is required by the Swiss laws because we are a Swiss foundation, and it's doing everything that it's required. Regarding financial statement, as a foundation, when there's obligation to disclose financial, this is, just my knowledge is that you are required when you have actual like source of income from other organization, meaning normal foundations have received grants from other organization or governments, and that's where you have responsibility of
I mean, I don't think anyone doubts that the Ethereum Foundation is complying with all of the, foundation regulations and stuff. I'm sure
Yeah.
you are, but it still seems that maybe there's, besides the legal issues, there's sort of from the Ethereum community,
Yeah, exactly.
like a reasonable expectation that there would be like a transparent sharing of information.
Yeah, so that's why we are trying to share, like you said, right? It's not legality, like it's about like for the community to feel good about the entire ecosystem. But again, like if community sees the Ethereum Foundation to be, I see the ETF, it's one of the ETH holder, but again, like since it does have unique position, so we try to give more information. That's really coming very soon. So that's like right now we are having this conversation. We're about to make. I'm pretty sure when this podcast is out there, I don't know when it's going to be out. Yes, that's happening now.
That's good to hear that you're working on transparency. So may I just come back to the runway question again? So basically, if you look at the 650K ETH that the foundation holds, and if we assume that that's the main money that the foundation actually has, so doesn't have enormous amounts in fiat, that's 130 million today. So if you give up 30 million in grants, and that's your main expense, that's a runway of 4 years at today's ether prices. So do you expect that ether prices go up, or do you expect that development is done in a very few number of years?
So we do have some fiat amount. If you wanna, there's some information out there. Again, like we are going to give more information soon, but we do have some fiat amount, of course. So the year that you should just mention. But at the same time, again, one of the things we try to do here is we don't think that only EF providing or supporting the entire ecosystem is not sustainable. And one, it's not sustainable, but it's also not good for that. This is supposed to be decentralized, right? So that's why there are other funding mechanisms now exist, which we're excited for them to exist, but also at the same time we're happy to work together with them. That's why we're talking about more collaborations there. So hopefully, and then there are other, like efforts we're starting, like DAO funding or all that. So we are optimistic that there will be more other funding systems to exist in the near future, and then that already exist, like compared to before, and that's the beauty of making this more decentralized.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we'd love to come back to that in a second, but I'm just curious. So you mentioned the Ethereum Foundation has a bunch of ETH and it has a bunch of fiat. Like, are there other like investments Ethereum Foundation has made, like either into equity of companies or potentially in different tokens? And like, if so, like, what are they, and how do you go about managing conflicts of interest?
A foundation and non-profit can totally legally, again, like going back to invest, but we don't invest. That's not the decision, at least so far, that Ethereum Foundation has never made the decision to invest in other things or it could invest in the Ethereum project, but we are not doing that now. So that's the question sometimes I get asked, but we don't invest in things other than we do hold Ether.
How do you deal with other potential conflicts of interest? So what comes to mind, for example, is Vitalik's angel investment into Starkware, and Starkware then receiving a 4 million grant from the foundation. Do you have processes in place to make sure that everything is above board?
Yeah, the process is basically, I think it is never start with whoever is involved in investment, and then we should support that. Like, it always start from, like, bottom up, what are the most important, and then someone applies for a grant, and then is this really important for the ecosystem? And so, like, we had no doubt that what Starkware was working on was important, and they have great team, and that our whole team discussed with them, and then we were confident that they would make good progress, and there are milestones that set place so that not entire money has been provided yet, of course, and then they report to us every quarter. So it is like one thing, it's already creating good impact, but also about Starkware's, I don't know how he was actually involved in the but it is public information that he already made it clear before this grant happened. And yeah, that's the only detail, like, but yeah, again, like, of course we watch, because this was public information, and then of course we watch that. If that could happen, we will definitely watch and discuss.
You talked about DAO mechanisms of funding earlier, and at Ethereum, you made the announcement that the Ethereum Foundation is actually going to invest into the Moloch DAO. Can you talk about the rationale behind that and what your hopes for DAO funding mechanisms are for the future?
We just made an announcement at Ethereum that the Ethereum Foundation is supporting Moloch DAO with 1,000 ETH, and along with Vitalik himself as an individual, and Consensus and Joe Lubin as an individual that was announced at Ethereum. But then there are other individuals who are have been part of Moloch DAO already, and I do think this is very good. Well, not just I, but the EF. We thought we're always open to experiment with using this technology, but then you can't really put a lot of money into like something dangerous. But this is something that we thought it's with a good team, and then it's something DAO funding is something that definitely the ecosystem should experiment, and so we're happy to support those efforts, and starting with small amount, and that's not just for Moloch DAO, but this was the first thing we did, and we will be excited to see more if there will be something that will work. And yeah, so I'm excited to see this coming, and then how this would work, and then it's an exciting thing to see in the ecosystem.
So historically, the Ethereum community has been this like kind of super open-minded place, and like very tolerant of like all kinds of opinions. At least that's my personal impression. It seems though that like in the last, I don't know, year, or I'm not sure exactly sort of the time frame, but like it's kind of been changing, and there's a lot for a bunch of things, right? So I think one, there's this Ethereum maximalism has kind of come up with, a lot of people being very adamant that Ethereum is the one and only, a little bit like, people have done it often in Bitcoin, and it's become much more like hostile to, or like contentious and argumentative. Like, do you also see those changes? And like, what do you think is a driving factor here?
I personally blame Twitter. And I think it's the modern world, and not just about Ethereum or crypto. I think it's kind of the challenge this modern society has. It's a free debate space, and then used to be like there's like a professionals of media who post things, and then you actually check resources, check the source of information, and then so it's really hard to see what information is correct. And even this concept of the Ethereum is becoming more maximalism. It's when one person started to say, like, other people could be manipulated. But I still see the whole Ethereum ecosystem to be very, very like open and peaceful. I mean, like first of all, when I decided to support Ethereum, um, not other like blockchains or other crypto effort is really about the culture. Like to me, technology is something you can copy, anyone can copy, but the reason why this attracted so many people, the Ethereum didn't really do a lot of like a money marketing, or it's just didn't it naturally attracted so many people is
So,
really
so
culture.
what
I
is
think it's the
special
culture.
about Ethereum's culture?
So like you said, like I mean you probably know better than like what like how it's just this is very open, but also we don't, to me Ethereum is really about, I use the term Kaizen at DevCon, but like improving something that exists. And as long as the vision, long-term vision is like we want to create this platform, finish creating this platform so that the apps can create the world of the more distributed world, the power distributed, power decentralized world, so that that we can solve problems like financial inclusions, and that's the vision we want to see, because we see a lot of problems because of centralized structure of this modern society. And that vision naturally attracted people like, oh, I want to be part of this community because people care about this. And then I don't think that has changed. But if you only focused on some arguments on social media, it does, like kind of spotlight those problems. But I still don't think Ethereum has a lot of maximalists. But sometimes people have passion about what they work on, so they might feel very protective about what they're working on. But that doesn't mean like Ethereum has become maximalist. I don't think so. Yeah, and then I personally, like, again, like when I said we need to support experiments, is this whole crypto thing is experiment, right? And that's why it's so hard to work with regulators, or because they're scared of risks. And but for experiments to be experimented, we have to have different efforts. We can't just have one effort when it's still an experiment. So that's why we are very open to different ideas.
So many blockchains are actually seen as competitors to Ethereum. How do you feel about that? And how do you think Ethereum should deal with competition?
Yeah, so the competition exists. I don't want to sound like too naive that I don't see any competitions. Like the competition does exist in different definitions. But we, as the Ethereum Foundation, or I think the Ethereum culture in general, it doesn't really we're not really working on this to win. And so that's the competition is really like there are other efforts that exist for us to, like, it can actually help us to be better. That already happens before too. So again, like Ethereum, Vitalik created Ethereum when he thought about the better way to use blockchain than Bitcoin, and then like because of Bitcoin, he was able to get Ethereum. Like without that, Ethereum hasn't been born. So it's not, like that's not competition. It's more like this is one idea that can inspire other ideas. So any other ideas can be inspiration for us to be better. But again, it's not about winning, and that we think other things out there could inspire us, and that's the fundamental philosophy here. And I think that's the fundamental philosophy that Ethereum community also believes.
But in the end, right, you have all of these different applications, and they have all of these different platforms, and they're all trying to get the applications to build on them. So it is competitive, right? Because if the applications go elsewhere, then a project is not going to win or not going to succeed.
For application side, when you're a business, like you have your own priorities, right? And it's their decision to decide which blockchain makes most sense for them. But there are things that like like for Ethereum, decentralization is the priority, right? Like we don't compromise there. That's why there's scaling issues that the whole ecosystem has been working on. If you don't care about decentralization, and then your decision would be something else. That's okay, because that's their decision. And when you can define that as competition, but when your priority is something else, like we don't see it as a competition, like then you decide on something else, and then there's no point for us to convince them, no, you should, because like you care about different things in the world. We care about decentralization, and maybe some people don't. But I think it's naturally attracted so many people because so many people care about decentralizations.
So, what are your hopes for Ethereum for the end of the year, and maybe for the next 5 years?
So yes, like the entire ecosystem, and also at the end of the year, this Serenity East 2.0 will show more progress, but also we see a lot of the applications are making huge progress already. And again, that DevCon, we often have this announcements and updates from them. That's always exciting. So, and that's DevCon. By the way, DevCon 5 this year is happening in Osaka, in Japan, in October. We hope to see those more exciting announcements, new applications happening, and then I personally hope to see more usability in Ethereum, like both for developer experience, but also for the app's usability for end users. And in the long run, again, like my original passion into this was really for this technology blockchain to be used for social impact or like financial inclusion. Like I'd like to see that more. It's actually already happening, which is exciting. But I'd like to see that more in the long run. And then with that, we are doing this survey of the apps solving real world issues. We started to do that at the end of last year, and we are receiving like hundreds of submissions now, which show that how many the apps are actually solving like real stuff, like compared to 5 years ago. Long time ago, it was only those applications who, said they were using blockchains, but not necessarily you didn't really see the solution happening. But now we see that. I'm excited about that now, but I'm excited about the future that the world will have more of those. And then again, going back to my original passion, is something I'm excited about.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for coming on, Aya. And just regarding DEF CON 5, so that's going to be in Japan, and of course we'll put the links in the
I'm actually
episode
wearing
notes.
Ethereum Japan t-shirt for people in Japan.
And just can you remind us of the dates?
Oh yes, October 8th to 11th
Okay,
in Osaka, Japan, and more information will come very soon. And I'm of course, I'm from there, so I'm very excited about that. And then Osaka is very more unique, has more characters, and so that's perfect for Ethereum. And I, I'm pretty sure a lot of people haven't been there, so I'm excited to see our community people there.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Aya. It was a pleasure having you on, and learning about the Ethereum Foundation.
Thank you so much. Bye.
We release new episodes of Epicenter every week. Click here to subscribe for hundreds of insightful interviews with some of the leading minds in blockchain and crypto. You can also listen to the audio version of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and other podcast apps. Click here for a full list of places where you can listen. Thanks for watching Epicenter, and we hope you'll join us for our next episode.